Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Hello friends, I am Dr. Geeta Sachdeva, Assistant Professor in National Institute of Technology, NIT Kurukshetra. The topic which I am going to cover today is work stress. Under this module, I will be covering introduction part, sources of stress, stages of stress, type of stress and consequences of stress. Basic objective of this module would be to enable students to understand the meaning of stress. After the completion, they will come to know the different sources and various type of work stresses and what are the different stages of work stress. In today's changing scenario, stress level is rising equally in workers as well as the managers. Due to this work stress, more and more employees are viewing symptoms of unceasing exhaustion and burnout. Research has proved that stressed out employees are not fine for their organization. In the majority of circumstances, stress directs to decreased efficiency in even the best of the individuals, which in turn directs to decrease the productivity. Hence, it becomes very important to include work stress as one of the chapters in studying human behavior. Meaning and definition of stress. From individual point of view, stress is our body's physical, mental and chemical responses to circumstances that scare, puzzle, imperil or annoy us. If controlled, it is a friend that fortifies us for the subsequent encounter. If handled badly, it becomes a rival which can cause diseases like blood pressure, ulcer, asthma, overactive thyroid. According to the medical explanation of the term, stress is the body's general response to the environmental situations. Stress is a vigorous state in which a person is confronted with an opportunity, restraint or demand connected to what he or she needs and for which the outcome is observed to be both unsure and vital. Typically, stress is related with constant and demands. The former stops us from doing what we desire. The second refers to the loss of something desired. Two conditions are required for potential stress to be a real stress. First one is there must be vagueness over the result and the result must be imperative. Only when there is a suspicion or vagueness regarding whether the opportunity will be seized, the constraint will be removed, the loss avoided, that there is a stress. Significance is also important. If the results are trivial to the individual, there is no stress. Stress is not essentially bad. Individuals frequently use stress optimistically to rise to the occasion and perform at or near their maximum. Stress is not just anxiety. Stress may be escorted by anxiety, but two are not the same. Anxiety is psychological and emotional, while stress operates in the physiological sphere also along with the psychological sphere. Sources of stress. See, there are both eustress and distress that arise from our work and non-work lives. Work and non-work domains of one's life are intimately interconnected. Therefore, if one practices much distress at work, stress will be carried over to the home, which will augment the sense of awareness of even small distresses in experience in family sphere. Therefore, we can say that stress generated from many sources. Major sources of stress are extra-organizational stressors, organizational stressors, group stressors and individual stressors. First one is extra-organizational stressors. Work stress is not limited to things that happen inside the organization during the working hours. Extra-organizational factors also enhance to work stress. These stressors include, first is political factors. These factors are likely to cause stress in nations which suffer from political uncertainties. Second factor is economic factor. Variations in business cycle produce economic uncertainties. When the economy diminishes, person get disturbed about their own security. Small slump also produces stress in the workforce as descendant swings in the economy are recurrently accompanied by lasting decline in the workforce, temporary layoff or decline in the pay. Next, extra organizational stressor is technological factors. Technological insecurity can also create stress. In today's situation of technological development, new innovation build and employ skills and experience outmoded in very short period of a time. Next category of sources of stress is organizational stressors. In organization, there is no shortage of factors which can produce stress. Around every aspect of work can be stressful for somebody. Although there are many factors in the working environment that have some effect on the degree of stress that individual experience at the job, there are some factors which can create stress. First is job related stressor. Job related factors or task demands are related to the job done by an employee. These factors are, for example, if job is too monotonous, boring or dull, or happens to be too challenging in terms of frequent transfers or consistent traveling, which bounds the time he or she can devote with his family or family, the employee is likely to experience stress. Next job related stressor is a lot of jobs also are hazardous or morally contradictory to the employees who interface with it. For example, working in an explosive manufacturing plant for the person who is a follower of peace. Due to scarcity of other job opportunities, he might be forced to work in this environment, and this might be a steady source of persistent stress. Next is some duties and accountabilities have essential stress like those of the firefighter or police squadrons which diffuses bombs. Jobs where temperatures, sound or other working conditions are dangerous can enlarge nervousness. The more interdependence among an individual task or the task of others, the more possible stress there is. Independence on the other side tends to reduce the stress. Security is one extra task demand that can produce stress. Someone in a comparatively secure job is not likely to worry excessively about losing that position. Another task demand stressor is excess of work. Overload happens when individual has more work to do than he can handle. Next organizational stressor is role related stressors. These stressors associated with the pressure put on an employee as a function of the specific role he or she performs in the organization. Persons can experience many role related stressors. First one is role conflict. It occurs when two or more individuals have different and sometimes conflicting anticipations of a given employee. Thus, there are two or more set of burdens on the employee so that it is not possible to satisfy all of them. Another kind of role conflict is the inter-role conflict, where an employee performs more than one role at the similar time in his life and the demands of these roles fight with each other. Next role related stressor is role ambiguity. Stresses from role uncertainty happens when an individual does not know what is expected of him or her or how to go about doing the job. Next role related stressor is role overload. It states to the condition when an employee is expectable to do many things within a restricted time as a portion of the everyday routine. Next organizational stressor is interpersonal or group related factors. Interpersonal demands are burdens created by other employees. Group related stressors comprise issues like conflicts, poor communication, offensive relationships and fear of being disliked from the group as a respected manner. Next stressor is organizational structure stressor. It clarifies the level of separation, the amount of rules and regulations and where decisions are made. Many rules and absence of involvement in decisions that affect the employees are examples of structure variables that may be probable stressors. Next one is organizational leadership factor. These factors signify the managerial style of the organizational senior managers. Some managers produce a culture characterized by apprehension, anxiety and nervousness. They set up unreasonable pressure to carry out in the short span of time, impose tremendously tight controls and regularly fire workers who fail to do the same. Next stressor is organization's life cycle. Organization moves through a cycle. They are established, they nurture, become mature and lastly turn down. An organization life cycle produces different problems and pressures for the employees. The first and the last stage are more stressful. Next organizational stressor is long hours and increased demands. This happened due to inflated technology and anticipation that employee will be available to answer email on weekends and evenings. As a result of this extra work time, employees find a smaller amount of time to attach in free time, domestic activities like grocery shopping, cleaning, etc. Next organizational stressor is being treated unfairly. Workplace matters like harassment, mistreatment can force employee to feel stress at workplace. Extra matters like feeling ignored for promotion can also produce work stress. In strong cases, perceived workplace unfairness can result in violence also. Next organizational stressor is little or no acknowledgement or reward. People can also feel stressed when they observe that they are not being recognized for the work they carry out. This form of workplace stress can force people to become withdrawn, apathetic, or unclear on being productive for the organization. Next organization stressor is lack of control, like micromanagement, the extreme control of work particulars by supervisors. It mentions to the extreme control of work particulars by a supervisor, such as a micromanagement, such as a micromanager might ask an employee precise tasks should be done on a given day and give exact commands on how those tasks should be attained. This form of situation can generate stress as the employee feels he or she has slight control of their own work. Next one is lack of job security. It creates stress upon the employees who had to leave and for those workers who stay. Those employees who have been laid off might experience financial hardship, and the workers who have not been laid off might essential to perform additional work and could suffer from physical issues even if their jobs were not removed. A lot of stressor caused by layoffs can contain augmented workloads, enlarged nervousness and lower morale. Next one is office politics. Dealing with complicated co-workers or supervisors and unlike personalities can generate stress at work. Conflicts, differences and misinterpretations are common in today's place of work, especially with the uses of technology. All of these factors, which we call workplace politics, can generate stress, which result in low sleep, efficiency and inspiration, evidently affecting our capability to relate to others. All of these factors, which we call workplace politics, can generate stress, which results in low sleep, efficiency and inspiration, evidently affecting our capability to relate to others. Next source of stress is group stressors. Another source of stress in the organization is poor interactive relationships or conflicts. These conflicts can be among the employees of the group or amid the supervisors or subordinates. Groups have a great influence on the employee's behavior, performance and job satisfaction. On the other side, group can also be a possible source of stress. Group stressors can be categorized like, first one is group cohesiveness. Group cohesiveness is very vital for the employees, mostly at the lower level of the organization. Lack of cohesiveness can be very stress creating, mainly for those employees who cannot flourish in loneliness. The other side of picture is that excessive cohesiveness can also lead to stress, because extended interaction with other people can also cause stress. Next group stressor is lack of social support. These factors include friendliness, reverence from other employees, self-respect, support, opportunity to act together, attainment and defense against threats, and a feeling of security. Next is conflicts. Employees who are working in the organization are likely to have interpersonal and intergroup conflict. When conflict has dysfunctional consequences, it will lead to stress in all the concerned parties. Next one is organizational climate. A general organizational climate might have a calm style of working, or it might be nervous and crisis oriented. All the employees of such organization will be ceaselessly anxious. If the climate in overall is unfriendly, unfavorable, and entirely task oriented. Next source of stress is individual stressors. First one is job concern. One of the main job concern is lack of job safety, which can lead to worry, tenseness or frustration to the individual. Career advancement is one more reason to worry. Next is career changes. When an individual employee has to change place geographically because of transfer or promotion, it distresses the routine of his daily life, causing anxiety and stress. Financial problems. Some persons are very poor money managers, or they have needs and requirements that all the time appear to go beyond their earning capabilities. When a person go too far their financial resources, it will continuously cause stress. Changes in life structures. The life structures of an individual changes as he matures older. As an individual grows older, his accountabilities to himself as well as others change and increase. More the accountability, larger the stress. Next individual stressor is pace of life. As the accountabilities of individual increases, his capability to carry out them should also increase. A chaotic pace of life when the individual is continuously busy in business or otherwise can create more stress than a tranquil pace of life. Next is life changes and traumas. Unforeseen changes are extremely stressful. A life trauma is any disturbance in a personal life that changes his or her attitude, emotions and behavior. Next individual stressor is personality of a person. The amount of stress is also observed by personality of a person. In respect of personality, the difference between type A personality and type B personality patterns become relevant. Type A personality may generate stress in their working environment due to their achievement orientation, intolerance and perfectionism. Type B personality on the other hand is less stress inclined. Next individual stressor is regular challenges. Getting trapped can be the instances of things that create stress in our personal lives. Most of us have the proficiencies to handle with this routine stress. However, many these type of stressor in one day can put up and source key issues at work and in our personal life. Next is work-life balance. Each one does various roles in their lives. The character of mother or father, boss, employee, spouse, sister or brother have their own special demands that might produce stress at home and at work. When persons have challenges at work, it can affect their roles at home and vice versa. Although many organizations inspire a work-life balance and create a culture that allows employees to have a home life. Next individual stressor is financial issues. Harsh economic times combined with growing costs of fuel and other living expenditures generate vast stress on persons and family. Not having sufficient money to purchase elementary needs and lacking the capability to purchase the wants can lead to nervousness, strain and depression. These emotions can carry over into our work life, resultant in dropped productivity and dropped human relations with co-workers. Next is family and friends issues. Challenges with family, in-laws and friends generate a big source of stress as well. While many of us depend on family and friends for support, pressure and differences can also create stress. So these were the certain sources of stress which can generate stress in the individual employees. Next one is stages of stress. Once under the influence of a stressor, people body respond in amazingly similar, in predictable ways. For example, when asked to give speech for a class, our heartbeat may suddenly increase, our throat may become dry, our palm may be sweaty, or we may feel lightheaded, dizzy or nervousness. If an individual lost her or his job or discovered that her or his partner wanted to terminate their relationship, she or he might experience similar sensations. It is clear that different stressors are able to evoke emotions which are common to the human beings. According to the author Saleh, he stated that human body moves through 3 stages when confronted by stressors. First stage is alarm stage. Once exposed to any event that is perceived as threatening or dangerous, the body right away prepares for difficulty, entering what is called alarm stage. These automatic changes are controlled by our hormonal and the nervous system, and they trigger the fight or flight response. For example, someone realized that final exam one thought was today was actually scheduled for yesterday. One might begin to experience fear, panic, anxiety, anger, depression and restlessness. Second stage is resistance stage. The second stage of response to a stressor is the resistance stage, during which the body attempts to re-establish its equilibrium or internal balance. The body is geared for survival, and because staying in the alarm stage for a prolonged amount of time is not conducive for the body's optimal functioning, it will resist the threat or attempt to resolve the problem and reduce the intensity of the response to more manageable level. Specific organ systems such as cardiovascular and digestive system become the focus of the body's response. During this phase, one might take steps to calm oneself or relieve the stress on the body. One might deny the situation, withdraw and isolate oneself from others, and shut down one's emotions. Thus, in this example, one may not tell anyone about missing the exam, may tell oneself that one do not care about that class anyway and go back to bed. In this way, one cannot deny the stress. Second stage is exhaustion stage. Our capability to go from the alarm stage to less damaging resistance stage decide the effect the stressor has on our physical and psychological health. As we get more control and balance is re-established, we can start to recover from the stress. The span of time, energy and attempt required to achieve recovery decides how exhausted our body becomes as the consequences of the stressor. No doubt, the longer the body is under the stress and out of the balance, more negative the effect will be on our body. Long-term exposure to a stressor or dealing with many stressors at the same time often result in overloading our system. Specific organs and body system that were called on during the resistance stage may not be able to resist a stressor indefinitely. When all the psychological and physical resources we rely on to deal with stress are used up, an exhaustion stage results, and the stress producing hormones such as adrenaline increases again in our body. This is when chronic and serious illness can begin to expand, and individual may even build up clinical depressions. So these were the three stages of stress. Now types of stress. First type of stress is called acute stress. It is the most common type of stress and usually originates from demands and pressures of the past and upcoming demands. For instance, assume we have a hectic day. We have to drop our child at school, hold by the bank, go to class, take a test, get an oil change, drive home through traffic and cook dinner. A hectic day like this can generate stress, but it is short term, because maybe tomorrow we are less hectic or observing forward to weekend where we do not have such much to do. Each individual experiences this form of stress. Acute stress is a laundry list of the things that we have to do or list of the things that didn't do right. For instance, if our car breaks down on the way to the bank, this generates a definitely quantity of acute stress, but when the car is fixed, there is no stress related with it. Next type of stress is episodic acute stress. It can be more severe in comparison of acute stress. The individual feels stress on regular basis and hardly gets release. It is a more grave form of acute stress. The individual who suffer from episodic acute stress feels stress incessantly with minor relief. Third type of stress is chronic stress. It is a long-term stress where individuals find little way out of the state. It is a form of stress that occurs month after month, year after year. Sometimes chronic stress begins with shocking experience like post-traumatic stress disorders or childhood experiences. In other, chronic stress can happen in response to routine stressors that are overlooked or not handled well. For example, someone might have episodic acute stress but Over the period of a time, this may become chronic stress. With this form of stress, individual has given up looking for resolutions to stress and inclined to the just live with it. For instance, take a couple who is very unhappy in their relationship. While at one point in time in the relationship, they might have practiced acute stress when quarreling. It could have revolved into episodic acute stress as the quarreling happened more frequently. Then when that form of stress was continuous for a longer time, it became chronic stress. It becomes chronic because the couple took no steps to patch up their relationship. All stress are negative, but some form of stress can actually cause us to challenge ourselves and work at higher level. This form of stress is a positive stress that benefit us to attain a higher level, that is called eustress. It can stimulate us to touch goals. Consequences of stress. Stress is not inevitably bad for employees or their work performance. It is a dysfunctional facet of the high level stress that is a major concern. There can be consequences for the individual, for the family and the organization. Consequences for the individual. First one is physiological harm, physiological symptoms. In the early stages, main concern of the stress was directed at the physiological signs. The reason was that this topic was researched by experts in the health and medical sciences. As per the researchers, high degree of stress are usually escorted by severe nervousness, aggravation and depression. There can be some psychological symptoms. It can cause dissatisfaction. It can cause job related dissatisfaction. High level of stress might be escorted by annoyance, anxiety, depression, nervousness, irritability, strain or tediousness. It may lead to poor job performance, lower self-esteem, inability to concentrate. There can be behavioral symptom also. For example, there may be undereating or overeating, insomnia means lack of sleep, augmented smoking or drinking, drug abuse, losing sense of humor, moving in tense or jerky way, absenteeism and turnover, decrease in productivity. There can be consequences to the family also. In the dual career families where both spouses are pursuing careers, a lot of personal promises varied in nature are demanded from them. Additional stresses are experienced while handling the personal, social and cultural dilemma of matching work and family, fulfilling parenting responsibilities, handling competition at the workplace. There can be consequences to the organization as well. For example, there can be low performance and productivity, high rate of absenteeism and turnover, loss of customer due to poor attitude of workers, increased estrangement of the employee from job and negative and violent behavior, etc. Stress is an adaptive answer to a situation that is observed as challenging or threatening to an individual's well-being. Distress describes high stress levels that have negative consequences, whereas eustress describes the moderately low stress levels needed to activate people. The stress experience called the general adaptation syndrome involve moving three stages: alarm stage, resistance stage and the exhaustion stage. The stress model shows that stress is caused by stressors. However, the effect of these stresses depends on individual characteristics. Stress affects a person's physiological and psychological well-being and is associated with several work-related behaviors. Stressors are the causes of stress and include any environmental conditions that place a physical or emotional demand on the person. Stressors are found in the physical work environment, the employee's various life roles, interpersonal relationship and the organizational activities and conditions. Conflict between work and non-work obligations are a common basis of employee stress. There are some very important points which can be considered. Highly stressed employees are not good for companies. Chronic stress is characterized by long-term stress where there is a little hope for relief. Acute stress is a type of stress which occurs on day-to-day basis. Optimum level of stress for good for employees as well as for organization. Stress is inevitable, but through proper coping strategies, it can be managed. Thank you.